So I've been testing out the developer beta of iPad OS, and I'm in Notes, and I've been having a look at the different functions of handwriting and also using the freeform pen to be able to draw perfect shapes. So even if you can't draw a perfect triangle or a perfect square or perfect circle, using the new functions in Notes, when you draw a circle or a square or triangle or whatever shape you're trying to draw, if you pause at the end, it will become a perfect shape. So you can see here, I've got my note on the left hand side and I've done a markup drawing on the right hand side of a rocket and stars and the moon, and you can see that my shapes are very neatly drawn because of the new functions. I'll show you some of the different features that I've been able to find out and how we could possibly use these in education, as well as being able to select a handwritten phone number to call or a handwritten address to look up. So over on the left hand side, you can see within the note that there are all different types of arrows, and I've just drawn the arrows using the freeform tool, but by pausing at the end, they've created these perfect looking arrows, which I definitely wouldn't be able to draw, especially looking at my messy handwriting there. One of the new features in Notes is being able to add in an extra space in between some of your handwriting. So if you tap and hold, you should be able to tap insert space above. The only problem is when I have the drawing on the side, my drawing moves down. And as I expand the space, my drawing moves further and further down. Let me try on an area that doesn't have a drawing. So if I tap and hold here, and choose insert space above, I can then very easily move my text up and down. One of the other new features in Notes is being able to select your handwriting and copy it as text and put it into another application. So let's try that and see what happens. So I'm going to tap and hold on my handwriting. Use the grab handlers to select all of my text. Now unfortunately it's selecting my picture as well, which I don't think it's supposed to do. But let's see if we can copy the text and see what happens. I'm going to tap on my handwriting and choose copy as text. Hey Siri, can you open Pages? So I've opened a Pages document and I'm going to tap on my text box and I'm going to try to paste in that handwriting as text and see what happens. Okay, so I've hit paste and it's looking okay. There are a few little mistakes, but that could be because my handwriting is a bit messy. Why don't we go back and try to select a different bit of handwriting and see how that works. So I'm going to tap undo. Okay, I'm going to try this handwriting at the bottom of the note and see if it works any better. Tap copy as text. I'm going to open up my Pages document, tap on that text box and tap paste. Okay, so it's kind of worked the same. It's copied it over and it's mainly got it right, but there are a few little mistakes and errors in there. So here I've got a phone number and an address of SciTech, and the new feature of Notes is being able to select the handwriting to call a phone number or search an address in Maps. And it does actually work really well, but you have to be patient. So when you first write out a phone number or an address, it won't immediately come up as live being able to call or live being able to look up in Maps. You have to give it a minute, even a few minutes. You might just need to swipe up and close your note and go back to your home screen and then open your notes back up. You'll know that it's live and able to be used as there's a yellow line underneath that phone number. So now if I tap and hold on that phone number, you can see that I can call a phone number, send a message, add to contacts, or copy my handwriting as text into something else. If it's a phone number or a mobile phone number of someone who's saved in your contacts, when you tap on that phone number, their contact card and information will come up, and you can call and even email that person. Now you can see the address doesn't have a yellow line underneath it, and this isn't a live address. So if I tap and select this, it's not going to let me search for the address in Maps. Now that could just be because my handwriting's really messy or it doesn't have a street number or something in front of it. So if I look down here further, here is a different address and it has a street number in it, and you can see there's a double line at the bottom underneath, which means that this is a live address. So if I tap and hold on this one, immediately Apple Maps comes up and I've got get directions, open in maps, add to contacts, or copy the address into another application. If I tap on the map, it'll go straight into Apple Maps for me, and I can look at that location and address in further detail. Let's go back to my notes. And I'll show you some of the other things that I've been working on that we could use in education. So just using that freeform tool, I'm able to draw some perfect triangles. So I've got a right angled triangle here and an equilateral triangle, and I've put in some arrows as well. And I'd never be able to draw my triangles this perfectly normally. So I'll give you a little demonstration of the two different ways. So I've got my pen tool selected, and if I was just drawing a triangle normally, I might draw something like that. And it doesn't look very straight or neat. If I draw my triangle and I pause right at the end, it will then create a perfect looking triangle for me. The only problem is if you make a mistake, like this triangle is a little bit off center and I have to undo, when I hit undo once, it goes back to what it originally looked like before it straightened, and then I have to hit undo a second time. So when you start drawing things, it can be a little bit time consuming if you make a mistake. So if you're trying to draw a horizontal line and it ends up going diagonal, then you have to undo and undo, and it can take a little bit of time before you get where you want to be. Some examples of drawing a square and a rectangle and being able to draw perfectly straight lines through to show the different halves, being able to draw circles and show different segments of circles. And here are some graphing examples. So having students being able to draw these in notes could be really interesting for their maths work. The only problem is it can be a little bit time consuming because when you're trying to draw arrows, sometimes the arrowheads don't always go the way you want them and they go a little bit off kilter. And I'll give you a demonstration when we come to our shapes. A lot of different ways that you can draw arrows. Drawing these type of arrows here is really fun, and you think that you can't do it, and even as messy as you do draw, it'll still come up with this kind of arrow. So have a play around with it and see all the different things you can do and what you're able to achieve. Here's a whole heap of different shapes that you can make. So you've got your normal shapes: square, circle, triangle, rectangle. Then we can do ovals and pentagons, stars, arcs, obviously your arrow like before, and little cloud shapes. So I'll show you how to draw a love heart. So that was really messy, but look how perfectly it's come out. If I'm going to draw a star, and you can draw them at all different angles. And I'll show you how to draw some of the arrows. So if I was going to do an open arrow like this one here, even as messy as that was, it's now become a perfectly looking arrow. So if I'm going to draw this kind of arrow here, what I need to do is draw, not let go, and draw the arrowhead, and then it becomes an arrow like that. If I want to try this kind of arrow, I draw a straight line and let go, and then draw in the arrowhead. Now this is where it can be a little bit time consuming because sometimes the arrowhead doesn't always go straight and it goes a little bit off kilter. So how I was talking about the graphs before, it could be a little bit tedious if students are doing it and they're getting it wrong and they want it to look perfect. So if they try to draw an arrowhead and they don't do it exactly right and it kind of goes off on a diagonal, they have to tap that undo twice and then start again. So it's just a little bit of extra time to be doing this work. Here's some other examples that you could be using for English, so making a comic strip and being able to draw all of these shapes on here using that freeform tool and having them come out perfectly. So even something like that call out you can do. So everything within this comic strip, apart from the hair and the eyes and the writing, have been done using the freeform tool and then pause. So I'll give you an example of drawing the call out. And even though that wasn't really defined that well, it's still come out with a call out. So that's really interesting to be able to do. Now, what I found with Scribble is I can't write within a call out or a text field or within a bounding box and have it stay in there. So if I tap on the special A Scribble pen and I try to write within the call out, it'll just move down and go onto a line for me. Here's another example of a comic strip. So being able to draw a thought bubble. So if I go back to the other pen and I just draw a little cloud shape and pause, I can then create these little thought bubbles. So you can start creating some really fun and interesting things You just have to have a play around with all the different features and see the different types of shapes that you can make and all the different arrows and things, and then figure out where you could use them in your class or your subject area. So hopefully these might have given you some little ideas that you could think about for your class, creating a comic strip, all the different types of shapes, which can be really fun and useful for students to have a go, especially being able to draw something like that star and seeing it come out perfectly, and even the love heart. I'm sure the students are going to have a lot of fun being able to do that. All the different types of arrows, looking at doing graphs and all these different types of maths examples as well. Being able to draw and mark up my work in this way makes it much more interesting and makes my artwork look a lot more professional. And also having the colour picker with all the spectrum colour and the RGB sliders and the hex colours, it's really starting to add a lot more sophistication into notes. So have a play around with it, see what you can do with the freeform pen, see all the different arrows and all the different shapes, and start thinking about ways that you can create some interesting drawings and how you could use this for your class. And I'm sure you'll have a lot of fun playing around with it. I know I've spent a lot of time over the weekend seeing what I can do with this, and I'm really excited about all the different things that I've been able to do in just a couple of days.